The council chamber stretched wide across the central spire of Apex Prime Station, its curved walls displaying the homeworlds of 47 different species. Ambassador Hein Wu sat in the human delegation seat, his fingers drumming quietly against the armrest as another heated debate erupted across the floor. 300 years of this, he thought. 300 years of sitting in this chamber, solving everyone's problems, and getting nothing but complaints in return. Speaker Ven rose from his elevated platform, his crystalline skin catching the light as he gestured with 4 arms toward the display showing the Outer Rim territories. The Krytherai had led the Galactic Council for 2 centuries, and they never let anyone forget it. His voice boomed across the chamber through the translation matrix that floated above each delegate's head. The motion passes with overwhelming majority, Ven announced. Earth's mining rights in Sectors 7 through 12 of the Outer Rim are hereby revoked and redistributed. Among the core member species, Hein Wu stood immediately. Speaker Ven, those territories were granted to Earth in the Treaty of Ancient History. Ambassador Ven interrupted, waving one hand dismissively. The Council has decided that humanity's management of those resources has been inadequate. The Southian Consortium will assume control effective immediately. The Southian delegate across the chamber clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his insectoid species. Perhaps Earth should focus on what it does best: cleaning up messes and following orders. Several other delegates chittered or hummed their agreement. Hein Wu felt his jaw tighten, but kept his voice level. And the defense contracts. We've maintained military protection for those sectors for 80 years. Oh, those will continue, Ven said smoothly. The Council expects Earth to maintain its peacekeeping obligations in the Outer Rim. After all, human soldiers are quite expendable, and you breed so quickly. The casual cruelty of the statement hung in the air. Hein Wu looked around the chamber, waiting for someone to object. No one did. The Yervathi delegate even nodded approvingly. To them, humans were just tools. Useful, efficient, and easily replaced. I see, Hein Wu said quietly. He sat down and began typing on his personal console, recording every word, every vote, every casual insult. After the session ended, Hein Wu walked through the curved corridors of Apex Prime toward the human embassy section. His assistant, a young diplomat named Minna, hurried to catch up with him. Ambassador, the Varan trade minister wants to meet about the supply contracts for Cancel It, Hein Wu said, without slowing his pace. Sir, cancel all meetings for the next 3 days. I need to speak with Admiral Dayun immediately. The human embassy occupied a modest section of the station's outer ring. Unlike the grand halls of the Krythari or the elaborate gardens of the Yervathi, the human space was functional and efficient. That was how the galaxy saw them. Workers, soldiers, problem solvers, never. Equals Admiral Dayun was waiting in the secure conference room when Hein Wu arrived. The military commander looked tired, her uniform crisp, but her eyes showing the strain of another long deployment. Beside her sat G1, one of Earth's senior diplomats who specialized in treaty law. I saw the vote, Dayun said as Hein Wu entered. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Hein Wu sat down heavily. How many peacekeeping forces do we have deployed right now? Giwan pulled up the data on the central display. 73% of all galactic peacekeeping personnel are human. We have fleets in 16 contested zones, medical teams on 40 planets, and engineering corps maintaining infrastructure on hundreds of stations and colonies. And our share of council resources? Less than 2%, G1 said quietly. We've been documenting this for years. The pattern is clear. Humanity does the dangerous work, the expensive work, the work no one else wants to do. In exchange, we get a seat at a table where we're constantly outvoted and insulted. Dayun leaned forward. I've been keeping my own records. In the last decade alone, human peacekeepers have prevented 4 major wars, stopped 6 genocides, and evacuated populations from 12 dying worlds. The Council's official response has been to criticize our methods every single time. The Breckentalmer situation. Hein Wu asked. Still holding, Dayun confirmed. Captain Taeyang and his fleet are maintaining the DMZ. If they weren't there, Those two species would have wiped each other out years ago. Does the Council acknowledge that? No. They complain that our ships are too aggressive in enforcing the buffer zones. Haiyan-Wu stood and walked to the window, looking out at the vast expanse of space beyond the station. Somewhere out there was Earth, the blue world that had sent its children to the stars, hoping to find friends and partners. Instead, they had found employers and critics. "I'm going to contact the Prime Council," he said. "I'm going to recommend Protocol Exodus." The room fell silent. Protocol Exodus had been created 50 years ago as a contingency plan, but no one ever seriously thought it would be used. It was the ultimate option: complete withdrawal from all galactic institutions, treaties, and alliances. Humanity would simply walk away from the entire galactic community. "They'll never approve it," Ji-Wan said, though her voice lacked conviction. "They will," Diyun replied. "I've been sending my reports to Earth for months. The military is ready. The colonies are ready. Everyone is tired of this." Haiyan-Wu drafted the message carefully, attaching all the documentation they had gathered. He outlined the vote that day, the casual disrespect, the endless exploitation. He added Dayun's military reports and Ji-Wan's economic analysis. Then he sent it through the quantum communication array directly to Earth's Prime Council. The response came back within 6 hours. Haiyan-Wu read it 3 times to make sure he understood correctly. The vote had been unanimous. 12 representatives from across Earth's government, colonies, and military had all agreed. Protocol Exodus was approved effective immediately. He said yes, Haiyan-Wu whispered. Dayun looked at the message over his shoulder and smiled grimly. "Then we're going home. What about everyone who depends on us?" Mina asked from the doorway. She had been listening quietly. "They should have thought of that," Ji-Wan said, "before they took us for granted." Haiyan-Wu began composing his speech to the Galactic Council. It would be humanity's last address to the galaxy. He chose each word carefully, knowing that what he said would echo across the stars for generations. Outside the embassy windows, human ships continued their patrols, maintaining peace in a galaxy that despised them for it, but not for much longer. Soon, those ships would turn toward Earth and never look back. Speaker Ven would get his wish. Humanity would stop interfering in galactic affairs. He just had no idea what that would actually cost. Haiyan-Wu stood at the speaker's podium in the Galactic Council chamber for the last time. Every delegate seat was filled. News of an emergency human address had spread quickly, and species from across the galaxy wanted to hear what Earth had to say. Most expected another complaint or perhaps a request for a negotiation. None of them expected what was coming. The translation matrix hummed to life above Haiyan-Wu's head as he began to speak. His voice was calm, almost gentle, which made his words cut deeper. "Honored delegates, I stand before you today to present a final accounting. 300 years ago, humanity joined this council with hope and enthusiasm. We believed in galactic cooperation. We believed in shared prosperity. We believed we could be partners in building a better future for all species." He paused and pulled up a holographic display showing a list of conflicts. In the past century alone, humanity has mediated 47 major disputes. We stopped the Vor and Kryathari trade war. We negotiated peace between the Brecon and Talmar empires. We prevented the collapse of the Selthian economy. We evacuated 6 dying worlds. We built infrastructure on planets that couldn't afford it themselves. The delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This was not the usual human style. There was something different in Haiyan-Wu's tone. "We did all of this while receiving less than 2% of council resources. We did this while being called expendable. We did this while watching our mining rights stripped away this very week. While being told we must still defend the territories we no longer control." His voice remained steady, but everyone in the chamber could feel the anger beneath it. Today's vote made something clear. Humanity is not a partner in this council. We are servants, tools to be used and discarded. Our contributions are invisible until they stop, and our sacrifices are expected without gratitude or reciprocation. Speaker Ven stood up, his crystalline face reflecting the chamber lights. "Ambassador, surely we can discuss." "No," Haiyan-Wu said simply. "There is nothing to discuss." Effective immediately, Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, from all treaties, and from all galactic institutions. Every human diplomat, soldier, engineer, and citizen will return to Earth's sovereign space. We are done, the chamber erupted. Some delegates laughed, certain this was a bluff. The Southian delegate clicked his mandibles in amusement. Others began shouting, demanding explanations or threatening sanctions. Speaker Ven slammed his gavel repeatedly, trying to restore order. Hyenwu didn't wait for the chaos to settle. He simply walked out of the chamber, Mina following close behind. They had work to do. Within 24 hours, evacuation began. Captain Taeyang received his orders aboard the peacekeeping carrier Justice, stationed in the DMZ between Brecken and Talmar space. He had maintained this position for 5 years, personally preventing dozens of border incidents from escalating into full war. The Brecken were aggressive and territorial. The Talmar were paranoid and quick to attack. Only the human presence kept them from each other's throats. All hands, prepare for immediate withdrawal, Taeyang announced to his crew. We're going home. His tactical officer looked up in surprise. Sir, what about the DMZ? If we leave, not our problem anymore, Taeyang said. He felt a strange sense of relief. Let the Brecken and Talmar figure it out themselves. The Justice and its escort fleet began their departure procedures. The Brecken commander immediately contacted them, demanding to know where they were going. Taeyang sent a simple message. Human peacekeeping operations have ceased. Good luck. He cut the communication before they could respond. On Kepler Station, Research Director Suman supervised the shutdown of the massive terraforming project she had directed for 7 years. The station was a joint effort between 7 species, all working to make nearby planets habitable. Suman's team had solved countless technical problems, often working around the clock when systems failed. The station director, a Eurovathi named Kelvin, confronted her in the main control center. You cannot simply abandon the project. We have contractual obligations. Those contracts were with the Council, Suman replied, not looking up from her console as she initiated shutdown sequences. Earth is no longer part of the Council. All contracts are void. But the atmospheric processors, the water synthesis arrays, the biological filters your team designed all of these. No one else knows how they work. You should have trained your own people, Suman said. She handed him a datapad containing basic operational manuals. This should help, or it won't. Either way, it's no longer my responsibility. She walked out of the control center, her team following. Behind them, warning lights began flashing as automated systems started going offline. In the outer rim, Merchant Captain Jinho sent cancellation notices to every trading partner he worked with. He had spent 15 years building an intricate network of supply routes, coordinating deliveries between 30 different systems. He knew which colonies needed which resources, which shipping lanes were safe during which seasons, and how to balance supply and demand across a dozen different species. His contacts began, flooding him with desperate messages. The Pracone colony needed food shipments within 2 weeks, or they would face starvation. The Velen mining operation required specific equipment that only Ginho knew how to source. 3 different manufacturing plants depended on raw materials that Jinho personally coordinated. He deleted the messages without responding. They had never valued his work when he was doing it. Now they could learn its worth. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Human engineers stopped maintaining alien infrastructure. Human doctors left hospitals on worlds that had relied on their expertise. Human negotiators walked away from ongoing peace talks. Human teachers abandoned classrooms where they had been educating alien children. The galaxy watched in growing alarm as thousands of human ships converged on Earth's territory. They left behind empty embassies, abandoned equipment, and half-finished projects. More critically, they took with them knowledge that no one had realized was so specialized. On Earth, Colony Director Hay-1 coordinated the massive influx of returning humans. Ships arrived by the hundreds, carrying people who had spent their entire lives in alien space. Some were relieved to come home. Others felt like they were abandoning friends. But all understood that this was necessary. How many are we expecting? Her assistant asked. Final count is just over 3 million, Haywan replied. Scientists, soldiers, merchants, families, all coming home? And the aliens who want to follow them? No aliens, Haywan said firmly. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Earth is closed until further notice. The exodus took 3 months. It was orderly, professional, and absolutely final. Human ships formed massive convoys as they left alien space. No one tried to stop them. No one really believed they wouldn't come back. On Apex Prime Station, Speaker Ven held emergency council sessions every day, trying to understand what was happening. But without human mediators, the debates quickly devolved into shouting matches. Ancient grudges surfaced. Species that had cooperated for centuries suddenly remembered why they hated each other. In his private quarters, Ben looked at reports coming in from across the galaxy. Systems were already failing. Conflicts were already restarting. And the humans were almost gone. He had been so certain they were bluffing in the human embassy. Now almost completely empty, Haiyan-Wu prepared to leave on the last transport. He took one final look around the office where he had spent 20 years of his life. Minna stood beside him. Do you think they'll survive without us? Eventually, Haiyan-Wu said. But it's going to hurt first. They need to learn that respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned. They walked out together, leaving the lights on and the doors unlocked. There was nothing left worth protecting. The last human ship departed Apex Prime Station. 3 months to the day after Haiyan-Wu's speech. Behind them, the galaxy was already beginning to burn. 3 months after the last human ship departed Apex Prime, the first major crisis erupted in the Breckentalmer DMZ. Without captain, a Thames fleet maintaining the buffer zone, both species began testing the boundaries. Small patrol ships crossed into disputed territory. Warning shots were fired. Then real shots. Within a week, full-scale war had broken out. The Brecken launched surprise attacks on 3 Talmor border colonies, killing thousands in the first strikes. The Talmor responded by deploying biological weapons that had been banned for 80 years. The humans had enforced that ban. Now no one was there to stop them. Back on Earth, Intelligence Officer Young Su monitored the situation from a secure facility. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, his screen showed real-time data from automated monitoring. Stations that humanity had left behind across the galaxy. Not to help anyone, but to watch what happened when they left. The Brecken just hit another civilian target, Young Su reported to Admiral Dayun, who was visiting the facility. Death toll is estimated at 50,000. The Talmor are preparing a counterstrike with enough firepower to glass an entire planet. Dayun watched the data streams with a grim expression. How long did Captain Taeyang keep them from killing each other? 5 years of active peacekeeping. But the conflict was frozen for 80 years before that, all because of human intervention. Young Su pulled up historical records. We spent resources, lives, and decades maintaining that DMZ. The Council called our methods too aggressive. Said we were making both species dependent on human protection. They were right about the dependent part, Dayun said. They just didn't realize that was the only thing keeping those species alive. On Kepler Station, the catastrophe unfolded more slowly, but just as deadly. Research Director Suman's replacement was a Vorian scientist named Trell, brilliant by his species standards. He looked at the atmospheric processing systems that Suman had designed and immediately saw what he considered to be inefficiencies. These redundancies are unnecessary, Trell explained to the station director. The human designs include multiple backup systems that waste energy. I can optimize the entire network and increase output by 30%. The station director, still the same Yervathi named Kelvin, hesitated. Perhaps we should study the systems more carefully before making changes. Nonsense. I have degrees from 3 universities. I understand atmospheric processing better than any human ever could. Trell began his optimization. He removed what he saw as redundant systems. He streamlined processes. He reconfigured the network for maximum efficiency. The initial results were impressive. Output increased exactly as predicted. Then, 2 months later, a solar flare hit the system. It was the type of event that happened every few years, nothing unusual. But Suman had designed her systems knowing these flares would occur. Her redundancies were specifically built to handle them. Trell's optimized system was not. The main atmospheric processor overloaded instantly. Without backup systems to absorb the surge, the cascade failure spread through the entire network. Within minutes, every processor on the station was offline. Kepler Station had a population of 40,000 spread across 7 species. They had approximately 18 hours of air left. The evacuation was chaotic and deadly. There weren't enough ships. There wasn't enough time. Species turned on each other, fighting for spaces on escape pods. By the time rescue vessels arrived from nearby systems, over 300 people had died. Some from lack of air, others from violence during the panic. Trell survived, but he was never allowed to work on atmospheric systems again. He spent the rest of his life wondering how the humans had known to design for scenarios he had never even considered. The galactic economy was collapsing even faster. Merchant Captain Jinho had managed supply chains that kept 30 systems functioning. Without him, those chains broke down within weeks. The pre-can colony that needed food shipments did not receive them. Their local government tried to negotiate with new suppliers, but no one knew the colony's specific dietary requirements the way Jinho had. The first shipment that arrived was contaminated with a compound that was harmless to most species but toxic to preycons. 20,000 died before they figured out what was wrong. The Velen mining operation shut down completely. When they couldn't get replacement parts for their specialized equipment, Jinho had maintained relationships with manufacturers across 5 different sectors, knowing exactly which components could be substituted and which could not. The Velens tried to order generic replacements. Their main drilling platform exploded, killing everyone on board. 3 manufacturing plants that depended on Jinho's coordinated supply chains simply went bankrupt. They couldn't get raw materials at reasonable prices anymore. Thousands lost their jobs. Across the Outer Rim, similar stories repeated. Food shortages became common. Equipment failures increased. Small problems that humans had routinely solved became major disasters. On Apex Prime, Speaker Ven convened emergency council sessions almost daily. But without human mediators, the sessions were useless. The Krathari blamed the Selthians for the resource crisis. The Selthians accused the Yurvathi of hoarding supplies. The Yurvathi claimed the Varians were manipulating trade routes. Arguments that would have taken human diplomats a few hours to resolve now dragged on for days or weeks. By the time the council reached any decision, crisis had usually gotten worse. During one particularly heated session, a fight almost broke out between the Southian and Yorvathay delegates. Both species had warrior traditions and deep pride. The Selthian delegate made an insulting gesture. The Yurvathi responded with a threat. Weapons were drawn in the past. Ambassador Haiyan Wu would have stepped between them, calming both sides with carefully chosen words. Now, there was no one to stop the escalation. Security forces had to physically separate the delegates. The next day, both species recalled their ambassadors. Another crack appeared in the council's foundation. Young Su's reports to Admiral Dayun grew darker each week. His monitors showed 17 armed conflicts in progress, up from the usual 3 or 4 that humanity had kept under control. Piracy had increased by 400%. Trade volume was down 60%. Refugee crises were erupting on dozens of worlds. The Yurvathi Empire is in trouble, Young Su reported during one briefing. Their entire food supply chain depended on human logistics coordination. They're facing mass starvation within 6 months if they don't find a solution. Can they find a solution? Dayun asked. Maybe, if they're willing to cooperate with their neighbors. But the Yurvathi have been arrogant for centuries. They're not good at asking for help. Then they'll learn, Dayun said without sympathy, the hard way. Back in the DMZ, the Breckentalmer War was reaching horrifying levels. Both species were using weapons that had been considered too dangerous for generations. Planets were being destroyed. Populations were being exterminated. The death toll had passed 1 million and was climbing rapidly. Several nearby species begged the Council to intervene, to send peacekeepers to do something. But the Council had no peacekeepers anymore. 73% of the old peacekeeping force had been human. The remaining forces were not enough, and no species was willing to send their own soldiers to die in someone else's war. That had always been humanity's job, on Earth. Prime Counselor Quan reviewed the reports from across the galaxy. The elderly woman had voted for Protocol Exodus, and she did not regret that decision. But seeing the consequences was still difficult. Should we help? Her assistant asked quietly. No, Quan said firmly. They chose to treat us as tools. They chose to take our sacrifices for granted. Now they live with those choices. Maybe in a few generations, they'll remember this. Maybe they'll treat the next helpful species with more respect. If they don't learn, then they deserve what they get. Across the galaxy, Speaker Ven sat alone in his private chambers on Apex Prime. Reports covered his desk. Death tolls, economic projections, crisis assessments. All bad. All getting worse. He finally admitted to himself what he should have known months ago. Humanity had not been replaceable. Their skills, their adaptability, their strange willingness to help others, even at personal costs, these were not common traits in the galaxy. And now they were gone. 6 months after humanity's exodus, the Galactic Council was dying. What had once been a unified government of 47 species was now little more than a collection of desperate factions fighting over. Scraps Commander Sung Hae monitored it all from Earth's deep space listening posts. Her job was to track threats to human space, but lately, she spent most of her time watching the galaxy tear itself apart. The data streams on her screens told a story of complete systemic failure. The Krithari have formed a military alliance with the Vians. She reported to Admiral Dayun during their weekly briefing. The Southians are trying to recruit the Drenger warrior clans. Smaller species are scrambling to find protection wherever they can. What about the Council itself? Dayun asked, effectively defunct. They still hold sessions, but nothing gets accomplished. Speaker Ven can barely maintain order in the chamber anymore. Sung Hee pulled up footage from the most recent council meeting. It showed delegates shouting at each other while Ven desperately banged his gavel. Dayun watched the chaos with a strange mixture of satisfaction and sadness. We tried to tell them. For 300 years, we tried to explain that cooperation requires respect. They wouldn't listen. The pirate crisis had become catastrophic. Human anti-piracy patrols had kept the major trade routes safe for generations. Within months of humanity's departure, organized pirate clans realized no one was coming to stop them anymore. What started as opportunistic raids evolved into full-scale warfare against commercial shipping. The Karis Pirate Collective, once a minor nuisance, now controlled 6 entire star systems. They demanded tribute from any ship passing through their territory. The Council tried to organize a military response. But it fell apart when species started arguing about who should contribute ships and who would command the fleet. In the past, humans would have commanded the operation. Everyone trusted human military leadership because humans fought to protect others, not for conquest. But humans were gone, and no one trusted anyone else enough to give them military authority. The pirates grew bolder. They attacked a Yervathi diplomatic vessel, killing everyone aboard. They raided a Southian colony world and took hostages. The galaxy watched in horror as lawlessness spread across dozens of systems. Several species tried desperately to replicate what humans had done. The Krithari sent a negotiation team to mediate the Breckentalmer, war using techniques they had observed from human diplomats. It was a disaster. The Krithari were logical and precise, excellent qualities for many situations, but they lacked the human ability to understand and adapt to vastly different cultural perspectives. They approached both species with the same logical arguments, not realizing that Brecken valued honor above logic and Talmar valued survival above everything. The Brecken found the Krithari approach insulting to their warrior culture. The Talmar interpreted the logical arguments as weakness. Both sides felt disrespected. Instead of calming the conflict, the Chthori mediation team made it worse. The war intensified. Entire planets were being rendered uninhabitable. The death toll passed 10 million on Earth. Dr. Biora finished her comprehensive study of why other species could not simply copy human methods. She presented her findings to the Prime Council in a quiet conference room far beneath Earth's surface. The issue is evolutionary history, Bora explained, displaying complex charts and data. Humans evolved as a species that had to cooperate between rival groups for survival. You learn to understand your enemies, to find common ground with people who thought completely differently from you. This created unusual cognitive flexibility. Other species don't have this? Prime Counselor Quan asked. They have different strengths, Bora said. The Chthori are brilliant at logical analysis. The Yervathi have exceptional strategic thinking. The Southians can process information faster than any human. But none of them developed the specific combination of empathy, adaptability, and creative problem-solving that humans use for mediation. So they literally cannot do what we did. Not easily. They could learn, given enough time and training, but it would take generations. Meanwhile, the galaxy burns. The economic collapse was now complete. The intricate web of trade that had connected hundreds of systems was broken beyond repair. Wealthy core worlds hoarded resources, refusing to share with the suffering outer colonies. Species that had traded peacefully for centuries now viewed each other with suspicion. The Yervathi Empire was facing the worst crisis. Their entire civilization had been built on importing food from agricultural worlds, while exporting technology and military protection. For 150 years, human logistics coordinators had managed this complex exchange, making sure food arrived when needed and payments flowed smoothly. Now, with humans gone, the system collapsed. Agricultural worlds demanded higher prices, knowing the Yervathi were desperate. Some demanded payment in military hardware or technology, but the Yervathi were too proud to negotiate from weakness. Trade deals fell apart. Food shipments stopped. 3 billion Yervathi faced starvation. The Empire's government tried everything. They attempted to grow their own food, but Yervathi worlds were not suitable for agriculture. They tried to trade with new partners, but decades of arrogance had left them with few friends. They even considered military action to seize agricultural worlds by force. In the end, the Yervathi Empire simply fractured. The outer provinces declared independence when the central government could no longer feed them. Civil war erupted as different factions fought over remaining resources. The species that had once been among the most powerful in the galaxy was now consuming itself. Speaker Ven watched all of this from Apex Prime and finally acknowledged what his pride had prevented him from seeing before. He called an emergency broadcast, speaking directly to the galaxy without the usual council procedures. His crystalline face appeared on displays across hundreds of worlds. He looked older somehow, though his species did not age the way humans did. Perhaps it was just exhaustion. Citizens of the Galactic Council, he began, his forearms spread in a gesture of openness. I speak to you today to acknowledge certain errors in judgment. The departure of humanity has created unfortunate complications. Many systems that we relied upon have ceased to function efficiently. He paused, clearly struggling with his next words. Pride and necessity warred on his face. It has become apparent that humanity's contributions to galactic stability were more significant than previously recognized. The Council acted hastily in certain decisions regarding Earth. We perhaps should have shown more appreciation for their efforts. It was not quite an apology. Ven still could not bring himself to fully admit fault, but it was closer than anyone expected. I call upon Earth to reconsider its position. The galaxy needs Young Su turned off the broadcast from his monitoring station. Earth needs to see this, he said to his assistant. But I don't think anyone cares what Ven needs. The message was transmitted to Earth's government, along with hundreds of other desperate pleas that arrived daily. Some were formal requests for aid. Others were outright begging. A few were threats, though everyone knew Earth's military was stronger than ever, while the rest of the galaxy weakened. Prime Counselor Quan read them all. She felt no joy in the galaxy's suffering, but she also felt no obligation to fix problems that others had created. Let them struggle a bit longer, she told her council. They need to truly understand what they threw away. Only then can we discuss what comes next. Across the galaxy, the catastrophe continued to unfold. The Brecken and Talmar were now fighting with weapons that threatened to destabilize entire star systems. Pirate clans controlled more territory than some legitimate governments. The economy was in freefall. Refugees numbered in the billions, and through it all, human monitoring stations watched silently, recording everything but helping with nothing. The lesson was being taught. The only question was whether anyone would learn it. 1 year after humanity's exodus, a massive fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's territory. It was not a military force, though it contained warships. It was a delegation representing 47 species, the entire fractured remains of the Galactic Council. Come to beg. Admiral Dayun's Third Fleet intercepted them at the designated neutral zone, a region of space marked by automated buoys warning all alien vessels to proceed no further. Her flagship, the Soul, was accompanied by 30 capital ships and over 100 support vessels. The human fleet had grown stronger during the year of isolation, while the galaxy's forces had withered. Unidentified fleet, you are entering restricted space, Dayun transmitted. State your purpose. Speaker Ven's voice came through clearly. It's translated by the same matrix technology that had once facilitated council debates. Admiral Dayun, I speak for the Galactic Council. We request permission to meet with Earth's representatives. We have urgent matters to discuss. You'll discuss nothing until we say so, Dayun replied coldly. Your fleet will hold position at these coordinates. You will transfer to unarmed shuttles and proceed to Station Haven. No weapons, no guards, no exceptions. If you refuse, you will be escorted out of human space. There was a long pause. The delegation had clearly expected better treatment, but they were in no position to argue. We accept your terms, Ven said finally. Station Haven was a small outpost on the edge of human territory. It's built specifically for this type of meeting. It was functional, austere, and deliberately uncomfortable for most alien species. The meeting chamber was plain metal walls with harsh lighting and furniture sized for humans, forcing the aliens to sit in chairs that did not fit their anatomy. 2 weeks passed before Earth agreed to send anyone to meet them. The delegates waited in basic quarters, served plain food, and given no special treatment. It was a calculated message: you are not special anymore. When Ambassador Haiyan-Wu finally arrived, he looked exactly the same as the day he had left ApexPrime.com, professional, and completely unmoved by the desperate circumstances that had brought the galaxy to his door. Counselor Jay Hen, Earth's new Foreign Affairs Director, accompanied him. The meeting chamber filled quickly. All 47 species wanted representation. They packed into the space, some standing, others perched awkwardly on furniture not designed for them. Speaker Ven took a central position, his crystalline skin looking duller than before, as if the stress had literally dimmed his light. Ambassador Haiyan-Wu, Ven began, his forearms spread in supplication. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. The galaxy faces unprecedented challenges, and we believe stop. Haiyan-Wu said quietly, let me save us all some time. You're here because everything is falling apart. The Brecken-Talmar War has killed 20 million people and shows no signs of stopping. The Yervathi Empire has collapsed into civil war. Piracy controls significant portions of what used to be safe space. Your economy is gone. Your trade networks are broken. And the Galactic Council, that grand institution that treated humanity like servants, can barely function long enough to have a meeting without devolving into violence. The chamber fell silent. Several delegates looked down, unable to meet Haiyan-Wu's gaze. You want us to fix it? Haiyan-Wu continued. You want human peacekeepers to stop the wars? You want human mediators to rebuild the council? You want human merchants to restore the economy? You want human engineers to repair your infrastructure? You want everything to go back to the way it was? Yes, the Southian delegate said, his mandibles clicking nervously. The galaxy needs Earth. We were wrong to undervalue your contributions, wrong to undervalue. Jehayan spoke for the first time, her voice sharp. You called us expendable. You said we breed quickly, implying our lives were worth less than yours. You stripped our mining rights while demanding we still provide military protection. You mocked us, insulted us, and treated us like tools for 300 years. We made mistakes, a Varian delegate admitted. We see that now. We offer full voting rights on the council, territorial concessions in the Outer Rim, resource-sharing agreements you offer. Hyanwu's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. You offer what you should have given freely centuries ago. You offer because you're desperate, not because you've learned anything. Ven stepped forward, his posture showing genuine distress. What would you have us do? Species are dying. Civilizations are collapsing. Yes, we were arrogant. Yes, we failed to appreciate humanity properly. But surely the moral thing to do is help those in need, regardless of past wrongs. The moral thing, Hyanwu repeated slowly. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. For 300 years, we did the moral thing. We helped you, over and over, while you gave us nothing in return. We saved you, sacrificed for you, and died for you. And you responded with contempt. He pulled up a holographic display showing the faces of humans who had died in galactic service. Thousands of faces, scrolling past too quickly to count. These are the people who did the moral thing. They died maintaining peace in your wars, building your infrastructure, solving your problems. They were daughters and sons, parents and children. They were my friends. And when I asked the council to honor their sacrifice with basic respect, you laughed. The display continued scrolling. Some delegates looked away. You taught us an important lesson, Hanwu said. You taught us that being helpful and being respected are not the same thing. You taught us that no matter how much we gave, you would always see us as less than equals. You taught us that the galaxy does not reward kindness, it exploits it. Jehayan stepped forward with a data pad. These are Earth's terms for re-engagement. They are not negotiable. She transmitted the document to all the delegates. As they read it, expressions of shock and anger spread through the chamber. These terms are outrageous. A Eurovathi delegate protested. You demand direct bilateral treaties instead of council membership. You require payment for services previously provided freely. You impose strict ethical stand. ARDs on any species wanting Earth's cooperation. Yes, Jehayan said simply. We will no longer subordinate our interests to galactic consensus. We will no longer provide charity to species that disrespect us. We will engage with individual species as equal partners, or not at all. This is extortion, the Southian delegate hissed. No, Hyanwu corrected. This is the free market. We have skills and resources you need. You have nothing we need except respect, which you must earn. If you don't like our terms, find someone else to solve your problems. There is no one else, Ven said quietly. That's why we're here. Then you have a choice to make, Hyunwoo replied. Accept that humanity is not your servant, but your equal, or continue as you are. We'll be fine either way. Our economy is thriving. Our people are safe. We have everything we need within our own space. The question is whether you can say the same. Several delegates began arguing among themselves. Some wanted to accept Earth's terms immediately. Others found them insulting and demanded the council stand firm. A few suggested trying to force humanity's cooperation through military or economic pressure. Hugh watched the chaos for a moment, then stood to leave. You have 1 week to decide. Individual species may approach us directly if they wish to negotiate bilateral agreements. The Galactic Council as an institution holds no special status with Earth. We're done being anyone's unpaid workforce. He walked toward the exit, Jehayan beside him. As they reached the door, Speaker Ven called out, Ambassador, please. People are dying. Children are starving. Does that mean nothing to you? Hyanwu paused and turned back. For the first time, emotion showed on his face. It means everything to me. That's why I spent my entire adult life trying to help you. But I finally learned something you should have taught me centuries ago. I cannot help people who don't value that help. I cannot save those who won't save themselves, and I cannot give respect to those who refuse to return it. So you'll let the galaxy burn? No, Hyanwu said. You let the galaxy burn when you treated us like tools instead of partners. This is your fire, Ven. You lit it. Now you decide whether to put it out by accepting our terms, or to let it consume you while clinging to your pride. He left the chamber. The delegates sat in stunned silence. Over the following week, responses came in. Some species accepted Earth's terms immediately, desperate for any assistance. The Prakan, whose colony had suffered famine, agreed to every condition. The Velen, who had lost their mining operation, signed the treaty without hesitation. Smaller species that had been respectful to humans in the past found Earth surprisingly generous in negotiations, but the major powers, the Krythari, the Salthians, the Eurovathia, struggled with their pride. They tried to negotiate softer terms. They tried to maintain some illusion of superiority. Earth refused every modification. Speaker Ven returned to Apex Prime without an agreement. The Council held emergency sessions debating Earth's demands. Some delegates called it humiliating. Others pointed out that humiliation was better than extinction. In the end, 23 species signed bilateral agreements with Earth. They met the ethical standards, accepted equal partnership, and began receiving human assistance. Wars were stopped. Trade routes were restored. Infrastructure was repaired. The other 24 species, including the Council's major powers, refused. They chose pride over survival. The galaxy split into two groups: those who worked with humanity and prospered, and those who didn't and continued to struggle. 5 years later, the Galactic Council existed only in name, representing just 19 species. The rest had either allied with Earth independently or isolated themselves entirely. The galaxy had been permanently changed by humanity's absence and selective return. Ambassador Hyanwu, now Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Relations, stood in his office looking at a star map showing the new galactic order. His protege, the young diplomat Minna, entered carrying reports. The Brecken have asked to open negotiations, she said. After 5 years of war, they're finally ready to meet our terms in the Talmar. Still fighting? But they're losing badly. They'll come around eventually. Hyanwu studied the map. The species that had partnered with humanity were thriving. Trade flourished, peace held, and cooperation replaced exploitation. The species that had refused Earth's terms had learned nothing and continued to suffer. Do you ever regret it? Mina asked quietly. Letting so many suffer when we could have helped? Every day, Hyanwu admitted. But I regret the 300 years we spent being exploited even more. We taught them that respect cannot be demanded or inherited. It must be earned, maintained, and reciprocated. Some learned, others didn't. What about those who didn't? They'll learn, Hyanwu said, or they won't. Either way, humanity is no longer responsible for saving those who won't save themselves. Across the galaxy, the lesson continued. Human ships traveled freely in friendly space, welcomed and valued. In other regions, the chaos continued, and on the edge of human territory, Admiral Dayun's fleet stood ready, not to protect the galaxy, but to protect Earth from it. Humanity had wanted to belong. Instead, they had learned to stand apart, valued by those who deserved it, and missed by those who had thrown them away. The galaxy would never be the same.